Hi, I'm Al Bundy. Welcome to a special edition of Meet the Leaders. We're here at the state capitol talking to state legislators. Our special today is brought to you by Altice USA. My special guest is Assemblyman Jay Weber. Tell us a little bit about your district and what district number is that?
Well, we're District 26, so this is 8 towns in Morris County, Parsippany being the largest. We have 4 towns in West Essex and West Milford up in Passaic County.
Okay. So you got a little bit of suburban and a little bit of urban?
It's a suburban district that has some even rural areas of West Milford, of course. I think West Milford is the largest municipality in the state, 80 square miles. So we get some bears, some deer, and some people too up there.
Yeah, some bears. That's very good. By the way, let's talk a little bit about gun control, which
Sure.
We have some of the toughest laws in the nation. But you have any other common sense ideas that we can even become stronger?
Well, I think the legislature has responded to the demand for safer communities, safer schools, by passing things like the red flag legislation, which would, if someone could be adjudicated as a danger to themselves or to others, can take their guns away. People who can be shown to be a danger to himself or herself shouldn't have weapons. Better background checks the legislature has passed, things that I've been supportive of. So I think that common sense balance between protecting a Second Amendment right for people to defend themselves and hunt and enjoy their firearms with concerns for public safety that are reasonable and that have, I think, judicial review and things that can bring real accountability to the process. I think people want that.
I want to say that I understand y'all have a bill that you've been looking at, very close to supporting, to give added security to your parochial and private schools
Yes.
in the state. Share with us.
Well, there have been a couple of measures, but one that we expect to vote on today that will increase the per student allotment for security aid for non-public schools. Public school students have a minimum amount of dollars that the state will send to every public school to help keep our public school students safe, which is entirely appropriate. But the kids who go to private school in New Jersey are no less worthy of security funding.
But you're a legislator for all the people.
Yeah, and and I've got kids in public school and kids in Catholic school, and the kids in Catholic school deserve to be protected as well. And so today, I think the state assembly will take a step towards increasing per student aid for security for Catholic school students and private school students. It builds on a measure that the legislature passed in November, which would allow nonprofits of any kind to apply for Homeland Security grants and harden those targets, better cameras, bulletproof glass, whatever they might need to meet whatever threats they think they're facing, especially in the wake of the Pittsburgh shootings in the fall. That's an expansion that I think was appropriate, and those are the kinds of things we'll continue to do to help keep New Jersey safe.
Now, I know that there were a couple, major items that seem to be being postponed today in today's legislature. Things like the marijuana discussion. I thought we had a commission. I thought that we were moving ahead. Was there something else that you needed to talk about, or is there more to that?
Well, I'm pleased that the marijuana vote is being put off. I'm very skeptical of introducing legal pot on a mass scale in New Jersey.
Are you concerned because of home rule or the social justice issues? Where are you?
I'm concerned because it's hard to raise kids in New Jersey these days, and I think putting edible pot in the form of gummy bears and lifesavers and sodas and normalizing something that I think is a gateway drug for many, B, that has its main purpose just to dull people's minds. As a parent, I don't see the benefits outweighing the costs of widespread mass recreational use of marijuana in New Jersey. We have a measure that will I think increase and improve access to medical marijuana in the state, but the recreational bill, I think that should be parked permanently.
All right, another item I think was minimum wage. And I thought we had already made some modifications to make that better, or at least helping those who have small businesses. Why was that postponed?
Well, you'd have to ask the Speaker of the Assembly why he pulled the minimum wage proposal off.
Were you comfortable with some of the measures that have been taken?
No, raising the minimum wage in New Jersey to $15 an hour, I think, will do much more harm than good. When you raise the price of something, you get less of it. And what you're already seeing happening is increased automation and more use of things like kiosks at our restaurants as opposed to employees, because the state legislature is threatening to make labor just too darn expensive. And we've seen it in other states. Seattle is not benefiting from a $15 minimum wage. People end up getting fewer hours at work and have to find more jobs just to make up the shifts that they've lost. So I think there's a lot of unintended consequences that go with that bill. I don't think they've been fully appreciated. And for one, I'm not going to be rushing to hike the minimum wage beyond what it is today in New Jersey.
Okay, so you still want more deliberation, more discussion?
Well, we have a minimum wage that is in excess of the federal minimum wage and that is indexed to inflation currently. It does not put New Jersey at a competitive disadvantage like a $15 minimum wage would. And I see no reason to aggressively move New Jersey into an outlier status when it's hard enough to create jobs in the state. And to say to a company like Amazon, hey, come to New Jersey where we make you pay more for your workers than anywhere else in the country, seems to me not to be a good business plan.
Of course, as you know, we lost Amazon, but before we go, let's talk about affordability. I mean, we still lead the nation with taxes, and it's still a major, major problem trying to afford living in New Jersey. What ideas or thoughts?
The number one issue in my district, and the number one issue I think in all the legislative districts that I visit or to the legislators I'm talking to, is property taxes. Property tax is the number one issue. And it's not that we don't collect enough money. It's the way in which we spend it and the expenses that we incur. And so making permanent the 2% cap on
that was a good idea. That was a good idea.
Was making permanent the 2% cap on arbitration awards for police and fire. I think
there are some towns have figured out how to get around some of that.
I know, but I mean, we shouldn't be dealing in loopholes. We should be dealing in kind of a predictable system that works and is fair to taxpayers and to public employees. And then redoing the school funding formula, which is the number one driver of property taxes.
But I'm under the impression our new governor wants to go back to the old funding formula that was not fully funded by Governor Christie. How do you feel about that?
The school funding formula needs to be blown up. Needs to be completely redone.
Okay, in other words, you want to abolish the old funding form or the funding form that has not been.
Property taxes have crippled this state for decades, and we watch our neighbors leave the state because they can't afford them anymore. And we watch companies not come because they can't afford to pay property taxes, or their CEOs don't want to pay the property taxes they'd have to pay if they were to come to New Jersey. And so I think we should start from square one, and I think we should look at it's similar to the security funds. How much aid is a student in New Jersey due? And is a student in, say, Parsippany, for example, do the same amount of aid as a student in North Caldwell, or Asbury Park, or Newark, or Jefferson Township in my district? And if that answer isn't yes, 100%, one-to-one they should, it's probably pretty close. And the funding disparities that we have today between communities in the state are startling.
That's right, they are.
And it drives property taxes in the vast majority of the state. If we were able to equalize funding for our students in our public schools K through 12, we would go a long way.
But see, it's interesting because many people think that formula is like equalization aid. But depending on how you look at it, it could be quite unfair to certain communities.
Certain communities get the short end of the stick. Yeah. And so if we equalize funding or come close to it, and then send that money back to the school districts and make the school districts give it back to the taxpayers. Don't give it to the school districts just spend, but make them give it back to the taxpayers. Our property taxes can come down quickly and substantially, and that, I think, is the number one issue for affordability in the state.
We're out of time. We've been talking to Assemblyman Jay Weber here in state capitol. Thank you, Jay, for being on Meet the Leaders.
Thanks, Al.